The desert town of Dry Hollow had long since dried up, its gold veins tapped, its soul spent. Dust choked the main street, wind slapping sand against boarded windows and sun-bleached signs. The buildings stood crooked, tired, and half-forgotten. But on this particular evening, something stirred, a cruel kind of excitement humming beneath the surface. Inside the warped walls of what used to be the local saloon, drunken voices roared and glasses clinked. Laughter, coarse and pitiless, rattled through the open doors. The place had been repurposed now, its name scratched out and replaced by a crudely painted board, the White Lily Exchange. Tacked onto posts and doors all around town were flyers, flapping in the wind like warnings. Virgin auction tonight, purity and beauty unmatched, all bids welcome, gold preferred. The flyer didn't list a name, just a time, and a promise. She stood on a raised platform of nailed-together crates, back straight despite the ropes that bound her wrists. She couldn't have been more than 18. Her white dress was plain, meant to symbolize innocence, but the way the crowd looked at her stripped her of every ounce of it. Her face was stained with dried tears, but her eyes burned with something harder. Fury, humiliation, defiance. The announcer called her the Rose, repeating it over and over like a prize being sold at a county fair. But she had a name, one no one bothered to ask. The crowd leered and shouted bids. A man in the front held up a leather pouch of silver. Another waved folded cash. Others made offers no decent tongue would speak aloud. Some came to win a wife. Others came for worse reasons. They didn't see a person on that stage. They saw property. She'd been orphaned young, raised by an aunt who drank away what little inheritance her parents left behind. When the debts mounted and no one came to help, she was signed away like cattle, handed over to men in fine hats and rough hands. Now here she was, up for auction in a town that barely remembered its own shame. The bids came louder now. A gambler offered a horse and silver. A toothless rancher added a barrel of whiskey. In the back, a gang leader with a rattlesnake grin dropped a pouch of gold coins with a thud that made the room go quiet. He tipped his hat, leering. "I take care of my investments," he said. The auctioneer grinned, rubbing his palms. "Now we're talking." The girl didn't flinch, but her shoulders rose, slow and stiff, bracing for the moment her fate would be sealed. A woman in the back covered her mouth and turned away, ashamed, but she didn't speak up. No one did. Then the door creaked. No slam, no grand entrance, just the quiet opening of old hinges and the soft thud of boots on floorboards. A man stepped inside, tall and broad-shouldered. Dust clung to his long coat, the brim of his hat pulled low over his face. A revolver hung on his hip, heavy and worn. But it wasn't the gun that drew attention. It was the small girl clinging to his hand, about 7, maybe 8, hair in messy braids, her eyes wide and curious. She stared up at the stage, at the girl in the white dress. She tugged at the man's sleeve and whispered, "Why is that lady crying?" He knelt beside her. His voice was low and flat, like a mountain rumble. "Because no one's helping her yet." He stood again, but he didn't move forward. He just watched, waited. "Final bids," the auctioneer shouted, eyes greedy. "Going once, going twice." The gang leader raised his hand. "Sold to. I'll double it." The voice cut like a blade. All heads turned. The stranger stepped forward, gold clinking as he tossed a small pouch on the floor. It landed right next to the gang leader's boots. The auctioneer blinked. "Excuse me, mister. I said, I'll double it. But she leaves with me. Now." Silence. The outlaw stiffened. "You don't get to interrupt business, stranger." The man's hand hovered inches from his revolver. "Ain't interrupting. I'm ending it." A tense beat passed. A whisper rippled through the crowd. No one quite sure if the next sound would be a gunshot or a gasp. The girl on stage stared down at him, confused, scared, hope flickering, uninvited, behind her eyes. "You think you're some kind of hero?" the gang leader sneered. "No," the stranger said, "but I ain't a bystander either." He walked to the stage, slow and sure. No one stopped him. He untied her wrists gently, lowering them like precious glass. She didn't recoil. He looked her in the eye, and she saw something there she hadn't seen in a long time. Recognition, respect, sadness. With one hand, he guided her down the steps. With the other, he took his daughter's hand again. The auctioneer opened his mouth to object, but shut it just as fast. The man paused at the doorway, eyes sweeping the room like a final warning. "This ain't a bid," he said. "It's a rescue." And then he walked out, into the dust and fading sun, leaving behind a stunned silence that would hang in Dry Hollow for years to come. The wagon creaked softly as it rolled over the brittle ground, each wheel groaning under the weight of silence. The stranger, Sam, guided the reins with one hand, his daughter Anna curled against his side, half asleep under a faded wool blanket. In the back, the girl from the auction, Evelyn, sat rigid, her eyes darting from shadow to tree line, distrust burning like a fuse. She hadn't said a word since they'd left Dry Hollow behind. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't care. The wind carried the dust of her humiliation with every mile. Her fists stayed clenched in her lap, her face turned away from them both. He hadn't touched her, hadn't offered pity, but neither had he tried to explain. Finally, after hours of silence, he spoke. His voice was low and flat. "You can leave when you're ready," he said. "Just not while they're looking for you." Evelyn said nothing, but for the first time in days, she didn't feel like a piece of property being passed around. That night, they camped beneath a thick stand of cottonwoods. The fire crackled, sending sparks into the stars. Sam made 2 tents, one for him and his daughter, and a smaller one a good distance away. He didn't try to sleep beside her, didn't hover. He just gave her space. Anna broke the silence first. With her small hands, she carried a hunk of cornbread across the clearing and held it out. "Ma'am," she whispered, "you hungry?" Evelyn looked at the girl, startled. It was the first time anyone had spoken to her like she was a human being in weeks. She nodded slowly, took the bread. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice hoarse. Later, she sat by the fire, arms wrapped tight around herself. Sam sat nearby, sharpening a knife, the flames dancing in his eyes. She studied him for a while, then asked quietly, "Why did you do it?" He didn't stop sharpening. "What?" "Back there. Why'd you step in?" He paused, looked across the fire at her. "'Cause I've got a daughter," he said, nodding toward the tent where Anna slept. "And if she were ever up there, I'd want someone to do something." Evelyn stared into the flames for a long time, and for the first time since the stage, she didn't feel like crying. Sleep didn't come easy that night. When it did, it came with memories of a cousin who offered her work in the city. "Housekeeping," she said. Evelyn had believed her, packed what little she had, smiled on the train. But it wasn't long before the smiles disappeared. The cousin took her papers, her name, her choices. She was sold by nightfall. The first time she tried to run, she made it as far as the barn before someone caught her. They made an example of her. After that, the fight left her in pieces. Now it all felt like it happened to someone else. By the next morning, as the sun cracked the sky, Evelyn sat near the fire while Sam poured water into a dented pot. He looked up. "You sleep." She shook her head. He handed her a tin cup. "It gets quieter." Eventually, she studied him. "Do you always help strangers?" "No." "So why me?" He hesitated. "Sometimes you just know when something's wrong. Like when a coyote's too close to the coop. You don't wait to ask it questions." She took the cup, drank. Then she set it barely above a whisper. "My name's Evelyn." Sam gave her a quiet nod. "Pleased to meet you." And just like that, the world shifted. Not by much, but enough. The next few days passed with a cautious rhythm. Sam wasn't one for small talk. He said what needed saying and little else. But he let Evelyn be. Never pushed. Never pried. One evening under the stars, he finally told her about his wife. "She was the soft kind," he said. "Taught me to read. Sewed buttons on my shirts when I didn't know how." He smiled faintly. "She died bringing Anna into this world." He tapped his chest once. "Took the best part of me with her." Evelyn watched his face, the way it tightened when he talked about her. "You've been raising her alone." He nodded. "Far as I'm able." There was a long pause. Then he added, "I used to do work with a rifle. Scoutin'. Trackin'. Sometimes blood work, if the pay was right." He met her gaze. "I ain't a good man, Evelyn. Just trying to be a better one." She believed him. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel the need to run. By the end of the week, Evelyn was laughing again. Not much. Just here and there. When Anna made a joke, or when the mule kicked over the water bucket. But it was laughter. In the mornings, she helped make breakfast. In the evenings, she combed Anna's hair. She even brushed down the horses once, her hands moving with purpose. Sam watched from a distance, his eyes tired but gentle. One morning, Evelyn caught him looking. This time, she didn't turn away. She just smiled, not with her mouth, but with her eyes. The sun dipped low on the 8th day as they neared the ridge above Sam's land. He said they were close, just an hour out from his homestead. Evelyn leaned forward, a quiet hope blooming in her chest. A place with walls, a roof, maybe even a bed. But as they crested the hill, her breath caught. In the distance, black smoke curled into the sky. Thick, heavy, rising from where the homestead should have been. Sam pulled the wagon to a stop, stood tall in the seat, scanning the horizon. His jaw clenched. Evelyn's heart pounded. "What is it?" He didn't answer, just reached for his revolver, eyes fixed on the smoke. Then he muttered, more to himself than her, "Looks like trouble found us anyway." The smoke still curled when they reached the edge of the ruined homestead. The fence was splintered. The porch collapsed. Blackened timbers creaked as wind moved through the ashes like ghosts. Sam stepped down first, his boots sinking into scorched earth. Evelyn followed behind him, clutching Anna's hand tightly. Then they saw it, carved into the half-burnt doorframe with a jagged blade. "She's ours. Come find us." Evelyn froze. Her breath hitched, and she backed away. "They followed me. They did this because of me." Sam turned, steady as stone. "No, they were coming either way." "But, Anna, you're home." "They did this to send a message." His voice was cold now, controlled, "and I got mine loud and clear." Evelyn dropped to her knees in the dust, the weight of it all breaking her. Sam crouched beside her, put a hand on her shoulder. Not soft, not tender, but strong. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "That's the difference." The next morning, Sam saddled his mare and loaded the rifle he hadn't touched in years. He'd been a tracker once, a man who could move like wind through mesquite and thorn. That man hadn't died, just gone quiet. He handed Anna's small bag to a rancher down the trail, a good man with a safe barn and 5 children of his own. "You'll come back, right?" Anna asked, eyes wide. "I always do." Evelyn stood nearby, watching him check his gear. When he moved to mount, she stepped in front of the horse. "I'm coming." "No," he said firmly. "This ain't your fight." She crossed her arms. "You didn't leave me behind. Don't ask me to leave you." They locked eyes for a long second. He saw fire in her now. Not just fear, not just pain. Resolve. He gave a slow nod. "Then stay close." The gang had made camp in a narrow canyon where brush grew thick and the rocks whispered secrets. Sam scouted from above, eyes narrowed. They've got a dozen at least. He spent an hour laying traps, thin tripwires, loosened stones, hidden branches with sharpened stakes. Evelyn practiced with a pistol he gave her, hands shaking at first, but her grip grew steady. She had no illusions, only resolve. At dusk, they moved. The canyon lit up with shouts and smoke. When the first trap snapped, a bandit tumbled screaming down the ledge, a shot echoing through the cliffs. Then it was chaos. Gunfire barked. Sam moved like death through the brush, silent, efficient. But even he couldn't dodge everything. A bullet ripped into his side, sending him to the ground with a groan. Evelyn screamed his name, and then saw the gang's leader, a grizzled brute with snake eyes and a sawed-off shotgun. He raised it toward Sam. Evelyn didn't think. She just raised the pistol, pulled the trigger. The shot cracked through the canyon, and the man fell. The world went still. Her hands trembled, the gun slipping from her grip. Sam looked up at her through pain-laced eyes and smiled. "You did it," he rasped. She dropped beside him, pressing cloth to his wound. "You saved me again," she whispered through tears. Sam chuckled weakly. "Guess that makes us even." By dawn, the canyon was silent. A few bandits had fled into the hills. The rest were dead or dying. The nightmare was over. They rode back slow. Sam slumped in the saddle, pale but alive. Evelyn never left his side. When they finally reached the rancher's place, Anna ran into her father's arms, tears spilling down her face. And for once, no one was chasing them. Weeks passed. The homestead had to be rebuilt, one board at a time. Evelyn worked with hammer and nail, shoulder to shoulder with Sam. She didn't shrink anymore, didn't flinch. She cooked meals, while Anna played near the well, laughed freely, sang sometimes, and Sam, wounded but healing, would sit on the porch and listen. One afternoon, a traveling preacher came by with a wagon full of Bibles and supplies. He smiled kindly and tipped his hat. "Good to see you again, Mrs. McAllister," he said. Evelyn blinked. Sam didn't correct him, just smiled quietly. She blushed, but didn't deny it either. Maybe someday the name would be hers. Maybe someday wasn't so far off. Closing voiceover. They tried to sell her soul at the highest bid, but one man bought her freedom instead, and she gave him back something he thought he'd lost forever, his heart. Out here on the frontier, there's no law stronger than love, no scar deeper than regret, and no redemption more powerful than the one we choose for ourselves.